Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
I am always so excited whenever I get to speak with Sarah Symonds, and it has nothing to do with the excitement that one feels when talking with a beautiful woman about very, very tawdry things from time to time. It's because she has a delightful British accent, and she also happens to have a great deal of experience and expertise on subjects like relationships. She's an author. We're not going to mention her book because her publishers don't give her any money when you order one, but she certainly knows a thing or two about a thing or two. Sarah, it is great to talk with you. Merry Christmas Eve, or Happy Christmas, as the British say.
Good morning, Frank. I always love my warm-up.
Sarah, you have talked before about how to be sort of a coach for mistresses, women who've been the other woman before. I have to think that Christmas, whether it's Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, that could be a challenging time if you're a mistress, because presumably, and like in the movie The Apartment with Shirley MacLaine and Jack Lemmon, presumably somebody that you're engaged in a relationship with, they're now spending the holiday with their wife and their family, which could leave the mistress on the outside looking in. Is that emotionally taxing?
Really good points, Frank. And we've talked about this with Thanksgiving, haven't we? Similar genre.
Right.
Yes, it's horrible. The other woman is in the shadows, wishing she had a certain existence with the guy, knowing it's wrong, hating herself really for being in this situation. Although yesterday I was reading an article online and a woman was talking about being the other woman or the mistress at Christmas. And she said, and it's happened to me, she really didn't know the guy was married until she was in it, hook, line and sinker. So it's very easy to judge and say, oh, just get out of it. But like many things that are addictive, you sometimes just can't. And yes, it's a horrible time of year. Everybody around you is celebrating and shoving happiness down your throat. And you just want to put your head under the duvet and just let it all be over.
Well, any advice for people that may be dealing with that kind of thing other than not to get involved in a situation like that to begin with?
Blow his phone up, annoy the hell out of him. Take a plane and visit his city if you need to. Don't let him get away with it.
That's terrible advice, Sarah. Terrible advice. All right. A lot to get to.
Frank,
Yes.
act responsibly always, please.
Yes. Now, I understand we have you have plans right after this. What are you doing after we hang up?
Oh, gosh. I'm doing a good deed for a lovely lady that lives in our village. She might be listening, actually. She asked me to send her the link.
Oh, good.
And
okay.
Yeah, her lovely little dog, Lucky. They're from Sri Lanka, and the dog came over from Sri Lanka. He's got a very poorly ear, so we're going to the vets because she doesn't drive at the moment, so I'm taking her. So we've got a 9:15 at the vets.
All right, well, great. We don't want to make you late for the veterinarian, so we will go through.
Fine. I'm going to heaven, Frank.
That's for sure. We will go through these subjects quickly. Blake Lively, one of the biggest stars in the world, it was widely reported in just about every publication that her co-star in It Ends With Us, Brandon Sklenar, has spoken out on these Justin Baldoni allegations. Now, I have heard of Blake Lively, but I have to admit I'm a little bit behind the times when it comes to pop culture. But I know this story has ignited the world in terms of popular interest. Can you break down objectively, before you give us your view on who's the good guy and the bad guy here, can you break down the facts as to who these people are and what's being alleged?
Well, for starts, I can't stand Blake Lively. She just gets right up my nose. I don't know what it is about her. And like you, I'd never heard of the guy. But it's all down to the fact about the intimacy issues, and apparently he was showing her how can we say it? Not very nice pictures on his phone, naked pictures. He sounds like a bit of a cad. But then, Frank, these days, I mean, where do you draw the line? They're having sex scenes. Everything is so sexualized now. Apparently, he's apologized to his wife, so it does show there was something there. But she obviously has got a bee in her bonnet. Everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. I tell you what it will do, though, make people want to see this film, which I think is a bit boring, to be honest.
Well, it's at 30 minutes after the hour. This is The Other Side of Midnight. My guest is Sarah Symonds. So what the New York Times is reporting is that during shooting, Blake Lively had complained that the men had repeatedly violated physical boundaries and made sexual and inappropriate comments to her. There's no allegation of groping or anything like that, is there?
I don't believe so, Frank. But listen, if you're lying there naked and you're about to get it on with somebody, really, you're going to talk about boundaries? Come on.
Well, that was I didn't want to sound insensitive, but that is sort of how this comes across to me. I mean, I have no doubt that maybe Blake Lively was made uncomfortable, but to actually go, is she suing? Is that the deal? I know there was talk of a legal filing of some sort.
She's suing, yes.
Yeah.
She's obviously very mad about it. And you don't know how much her husband's involved. You don't know how much sometimes people do things and they wish they hadn't. And then they want to sue to make themselves look better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So it sounds like it could be an instance of maybe someone getting a little too carried away, meaning Blake Lively, in reacting to things.
Yeah, and I know I'm a woman and I shouldn't say these things, but I am so sick of women jumping on the bandwagon every time and beating the guy up. Men are so sexualized right now. I'm sure he was showing her those pictures. Apparently he's got an alleged porn addiction. I think many men have. The society is absolutely freakish at the moment, and everything you want is in the palm of your hand on that phone. And if you have no boundaries and you're in the moment, of course people are going to say things. And only afterwards does she go home and think, my husband said that was a bit wrong. Let's sue him for that.
You know, so I've seen like that stories like that before, not necessarily involving celebrities, but involving others where maybe a woman, or it could even be a man, but generally in most of the cases that I'm anecdotally familiar with, a woman will be maybe a participant in banter or flirtation or things like that, or she will show no signs of having taken offense at certain remarks, right. And then the boyfriend gets wind of it, or the husband gets wind of it, and all of a sudden they realize how offended they actually were, and then they'll try to make a federal case out of it, sometimes quite literally.
Exactly, and that happened with the guy we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? What's the boxer? The boxer that allegedly sexually assaulted the woman in the hotel room in Ireland. He was
an Ultimate Fighter, Conor McGregor.
Him, yes.
Yeah.
So she went home, she told the boyfriend, she showed him, that's a bizarre story, and then they decided to sue. So I always think that something gets behind it all and gives it a bit more oomph, bad term, and I don't know, I think it's a domino effect.
Yeah,
but, like we said before, Frank, for real victims, women who are taken off the street, women who are suffering domestic abuse, they probably look at people like Blake Lively living in a palatial home with beautiful clothes and think, really, come on.
What I am curious about, and you have a pretty good feel for public perception, you've spent a lot of time with celebrities, you've been covered in a lot of the press yourself, is what does this do to public perception of Blake Lively? Does this make her a more bankable star in the future? I don't see it.
I don't know about more bankable, but definitely she's playing the victim card, so everybody will be more receptive to her.
All right, well,
and they'll be applauding her for taking on this guy.
But it doesn't sound like you're convinced that she is a victim.
There you go.
Got it. All right.
Convince me. Let's talk again when I'm convinced.
Gotcha. I think
it takes two to tango, Frank, and that's all I'll say.
If you're just tuning in, this is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. My guest is Sarah Symonds. All right, I have to ask you about this story. This is a story out of New York, but it's kind of become a national story, and I'm curious to get your take on it, not necessarily for the legal or political implications of it, but for the relationship ramifications of it. There was a police officer, Lieutenant Quatisha Epps, and she was reported in all the papers as receiving more money than any other member of the NYPD, pulling in a whopping $400,000, including roughly $204,000 in overtime alone last year for an administrative role. It's not like she's going out getting into gunfights with drug dealers every day. That administrator role was in the NYPD chief of department, that is the top uniformed cop in New York City, Jeffrey Maddrey's office. So they look into this. She puts in her retirement papers, and then she makes a filing, which is a prelude to a lawsuit, alleging all sorts of predatory behavior. Apparently, she and Chief Maddrey had sex at least 11 times. The most recent time was just last Monday, and now she's saying that she was preyed upon. And Jeffrey Maddrey is out of a job as well. He's been removed by the police commissioner. Give me your take on this story, Sarah.
The topic of sex, again, is so powerful. There you've got a man who's lost his job. What I will say is I think it's a touch of the Blake Lively's again, and I think it's a classic case of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. How is she earning that money, Frank? Bending over backwards and forwards by the sound of it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me, and again, I don't want to be insensitive when we only know one side of the story, but it sounds to me like there's a good chance, and it sounds like this Chief Maddrey is a total cad. Apparently, he's had multiple sexual harassment allegations, and he had multiple mistresses working with the NYPD simultaneously.
So he's got form, we can say.
So, but it sounds to me like if they're having sex at least 11 times, that maybe this was less a predatory relationship and more of a consensual relationship.
Yes, and it sounds to me, as the expert, that something went wrong. I can't say that on the radio, he annoyed her, and she's hitting back at him. But like you said, 11 times, and I did read the article, it was excruciating to read. And on the 13th floor of the precinct, what happens on the 13th floor doesn't stay on the 13th floor by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and again, shame on Chief Maddrey for behaving this way, especially while he was supposed to be working. There's no
Frank,
excuse
again,
for that.
It takes two to tango. 11 times is not nothing.
Right. Well, what do you say?
Shame on him.
Well, what do you say? What do you say to people who will say, in defense of Lieutenant Epps, that look, she was dependent upon this money. She needed this money to save her house, and she felt that she didn't really have an option to say no. What about it?
I would say it was a win-win situation. The guy was able to pay her. I've been in that situation. She was able to put food on the table, look after her 3 kids. She's unmarried, by the way. But something must have gone wrong. And like you said, it was an administration role. She wasn't putting herself out there in the firing line. She had a cushy number. But something went wrong between the two of them, and that's when she spoke out.
All right. The House Ethics Report has finally been released on former Congressman Matt Gaetz. They found evidence that former Congressman Gaetz paid tens of thousands of dollars to women for sex or drugs on at least 20 different occasions, including paying a 17-year-old girl for sex in 2017, according to a final draft of the panel's report. Gaetz tried to stop this report from being released. Obviously, this is made all the more interesting because Gaetz was President Trump's original pick to be the Attorney General. Sarah, you pay one underage girl for sex and all of a sudden people get upset about it? What's going on here?
Well, listen, I'm no fan of Matt Gaetz, but like we always say, we only know one side of the story. Did he know she was 17?
Well,
do you ask for ID in these situations? I don't know. A lot of young girls look about 25 now. So this is number one. But he's a cad, to use our new word, isn't he? But again, Frank, I don't know how he had time to do his job. He was so busy doing these other things. And what makes me surprised is how his partner, wife, whatever she was, stood by him. Ginger, somebody.
Well,
Didn't
apparently,
she stand by him
yeah,
for so long?
she's with him now, but apparently she wasn't married to him at the time of this crazy party that he was paying for all these drugs and sex and all things like that. But yeah, they're still together. Apparently, pretty happy.
Good luck, Ginger. But anyhow, I mean, sometimes power can go to your head. Like I've said before, it's not like these guys have a normal job. They're not bank clerks. They don't go home and have their dinner at 6 o'clock and put their slippers on. The adrenaline rush is still there. The options are still there. So, of course, they're going to maximize it. You know, look at Bill Clinton. Look at all of them. Look at the ones we haven't heard about yet.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned President Clinton. There was news yesterday that he was hospitalized for flu-like symptoms. So we wish him certainly a speedy recovery from whatever his particular ailment is. Lastly,
could be chlamydia.
I don't think it's chlamydia, but who knows? So lastly, Sarah, and I know you have to go to the veterinarian, so I will end it with this. There are reports that the former dictator of Syria, Bashar al-Assad's London-born wife, Asma, filed for divorce and wants to leave with her children to the UK. Now, they're backing off these reports a little bit, and they're saying maybe they're not getting a divorce. But isn't this the oldest story in the world? The guy was the dictator of a country, and they're happily married. All of a sudden, he's forced to flee. He's forced to go into exile. And all of a sudden, now she doesn't want to have anything to do with him. Is that really... It seems like this is a fair weather wife, to coin a new phrase.
Oh, I like that. I would say too little, too late. She has stood by him when he's done the most awful atrocities. And for me, I've got no time for her. I don't care what happens to her, but we certainly don't want her back here. She's an abomination to women. You know,
let us know if you see her at the veterinarian's office, Sarah. It's certainly be an interesting
If I do,
meeting.
It could all go Pete Tong.
I bet. All right, Sarah, it's always a treat to talk with you. Have a wonderful Christmas. Let's talk often in 2025.
Please, and Frank, I have one last message for your female listeners.
Yes, please.
Just make sure that this Christmas, the only thing your husbands are stuffing are the turkey.
There you go. That's very prudent advice from Sarah Symonds. And, she may not want me to mention her book, but actually it's still worth checking out. You can check out her book. It's just search Symonds on Amazon, Symonds. It's some good stuff on there. It's Having an Affair, a handbook for the other woman. Really an interesting book, even if she doesn't get paid.